Hey, good morning. I'm here at Path, but I'm going to make a video about attachment trauma and the depth of longing. And excuse my face in that. No makeup, but like impromptu share because I'm here alone and I'm alone with my thoughts and then I think, gosh, I want to share, because that's what happens, I think it's a very common thing and a beautiful thing that, when we've lived through trauma and we start overcoming and we learn, we naturally want to share and help others cut through the fog. So that happens. And then, okay, so I want to talk, so anyways, hi, my name is Donna. This is my channel. My channel is about empowering self, let's call it that, after living through trauma. So this video is about attachment trauma and longing. And I want to start out by first saying that attachment trauma is 50% of the population. 50%. So I don't want you to feel like there's something wrong with you or this isn't normal or someone watching it, oh, well, that's you, or that I have some crazy abuse background. This is 50% of our population has attachment trauma, 50%. So it's a sad but quite normal thing. So, all right, let's cut through it though. So, longing. So I saw a post yesterday that I shared that said, now I hope I remember how to word it right, but I felt it deeply and others did that have suffered that attachment trauma. Because we tend to have these same feelings and behaviors. We're humans, we're all different and we're all similar, So, and behavior is behavior. So, it went something like, the depth of your longing mistakes puddles for oceans and crumbs for banquets. Yes, hell yes. And so that's what I want to talk about. Attachment trauma and deep longing. So when you live through attachment trauma and you get into intimate relationships, your attachment system gets triggered. That's where it's at, So your attachment trauma and your attachment system are in the same place. And so when you get intimate with someone, your attachment system gets opened up and the trauma is there. So why it's very important to do the work. And the healing work is mostly, it's having awareness and working through these patterns and understanding the behavior and, working to calm self and to know where it's coming from and to work on modifying behavior and, working on self-soothing, the feelings that come with this. So another thing I heard that I also have felt very deeply and also helps bring empathy to self for behaviors and reactions and those intense emotions that especially come when a relationship ends, even if it's an unhealthy relationship. And even if it's a relationship that if you really look at, okay, like it has happened even with relationships I've ended myself, and then I start second guessing because that attachment system is triggered and that deep longing is there. But when it's ended by someone else, even if I look at the relationship and think, well, they were right by ending it because it wasn't a match, or if they're ending it, we have to accept that. And then having that deep longing activated, having that attachment trauma triggered. Well, what has been said that also resonated very deeply in psychology is the depth of your longing is an exact reflection of how deep your attachment trauma is, how much you were neglected, ignored, abused in childhood. So sort of to then wrap your head around the whole thing. I want to make it short because I'm taping the floor, I'm going to paint soon, and I'll share, my before and afters. I was thinking yesterday, segue, about path. I was thinking of fresh start. I was going to put the before and afters and say fresh start, which goes right along with this, like giving myself a fresh start. Look at, no makeup, fresh start. So, okay, so back to this, which is about fresh start, having understanding of this. When you're feeling those intense emotions for someone, intense longing for someone, intense emotion and pain over ended romantic grown-up relationships, what you're really feeling is your attachment wounding. When we don't have that depth, those wounds, we don't feel that intensity. Of course, we're humans and empathetic beings, it's sad when something ends and we grieve it. That's a whole nother thing, the grieving process. But when we feel this depth, when we feel that ocean over the puddle, and we feel, like when we get love, when we feel a crumb and we think it's a banquet, that is that longing, that's that longing. And again, it's a direct reflection of how much you were either, emotionally ignored, physically, how much you were neglected or abused in childhood, how much you were not seen, heard, attuned to by your family of origin. So to just know that that's where that pain comes from, and that's where the healing has to happen. I mean, I've ended relationships that I know that were no good for me, and then started second guessing and feeling that longing right after. Well, maybe they were okay. Maybe I'll obsessively read through all of the interaction between us and figure out whether or not. No, your intuition knows. You know when you end it, or when someone else ends it, it's ended for a reason, and because too, even if you think you did something wrong then in a relationship and it ended, then work on that and do that. And if you reach out to the person and they don't want to be with you, then you let that go. The reason why you can't let it go is that longing. It's that longing, that deep longing. That's that wound that needs to be healed. So, how do we heal this? First of all, we heal our behavior around romantic relationships by seeing that these depths of emotion are not over this object of our desire. They're from the depth of our wound, of our deep longing, of our unfulfilled childhood, of our lack of connection, So one, bringing it back down, like, oh, wow, this intensity that I feel for this person, this is from within me. This is this depth, this wound that I feel within my being. This is that longing. And then I go back and I can look, and I'm not calling anyone out. Everyone in my family, that hurt people. I know people get mad at that, but it's true. People that are well don't hurt people. It's not saying all hurt people, but when people hurt people, they're hurt people. They're not well people. So, it's this passed down trauma, not connecting properly, and I've done it with my own children, and thankfully I'm smashing that bullshit, and they're learning and they're being connected to, and they're sorting through their own trauma nice and early, so they don't have to live through a lifetime of pain like I have. So, and suffering, and, dysfunctional relationships, and deep longing, and, all of that. So, one, sitting with your own feelings, knowing that, not running back to unhealthy relationships, not, over-guessing and overthinking and ruminating and, shaming and guilting self, to just sit with those emotions and think, this is deep longing. This is pain from the past. That depth is not from this present moment. It's this moment and all the other moments flooding forward. This is intense. And then we can take that, sorry, there's a toilet. Then we can take that intensity and those beautiful heightened emotions that can be so overwhelming. And they are actually filled with energy. And we can use them to take the most amazing long-ass, kick-ass run. Or to draw out the most amazing picture, or to spill out the most poetic words. You know, we can use this intensity for other things, to throw into a project with passion, you know. And then we can work on healing those wounds and looking at our childhood trauma and, you know, working on that. And how do we work on childhood trauma? One, we admit and recognize it's there. For so long, I would have told everyone I had the perfect childhood, yet it was extremely dysfunctional and filled with a lot of sadness and lack of connection and, you know, the loss of my father and a divorce and, you know, an overwhelmed, anxious mother and, you know, a lot of pain, you know, and not being cruel to anyone, you know. Everyone, you know, they do the best they can with what they know. And, you know, so like remedying that, like first having awareness and honesty with it, and then working on reparenting self, you know, seeing self. Deep longing is filled with needs, you know, fulfilling those yourself, because when we project deep longing onto someone else, it is so intense. It's too much for one person. You know, deep longing is the whole history coming forward that's unfair even to put on someone else, you know. So that deep longing, it's met by self and even too, you know, I believe in connection with others. It's allowing relationships again. You know, it's because like when we have attachment trauma also, we tend to, you know, have some issue with connecting to others because there's fear there, because we've had a lot of letdown. We have to slowly let others in, you know, not just romantic relationships, start building a community of relationships, you know. Everyone can hold a little bit for you, a little bit of connection to you, and you hold a nice big bulk of it for yourself, you know, and just start really fulfilling some of your own needs, reparenting self, dating self, loving self, getting to know self, learning what own needs are, learning what own's dreams are, really seeing yourself, you know. And I guess that's it. I'll just end right there. So the deep longing, the depth of your longing is the depth of the misconnection from childhood. So there's where your answers lie. Thank you. Peace out.